Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys Board Gaming Podcast. I'm your host Adrian.
I'm still Zach.
And I'm your host Jeff.
And today for our episode 10, we are going to give...
No, that's not our 10th episode.
It's not our 10th episode, but this is our as far as the numbered episodes go, this is episode number 10.
Yep.
And for that...
Which is still the 11th numbered episode, because we had episode 0. Just putting that out there.
It's episode number 10. And so for episode number 10, we are going to do top 10 lists.
Yes, we are. And that's like general top 10. Our top 10.
This is our general top 10.
My, and then yours, and then Jeff's not like a collective.
Well, so we all went on our own, separate from the other two members, and came up with our own criteria for a top 10 list, and then devised said top 10 list. And we don't know each other's top 10s. So we're gonna go along and on this journey together.
Yes, we are.
All of you wusses didn't number yours.
I numbered mine. It's numbered-ish.
Numbered-ish.
Ish.
Just like this is episode 10-ish.
Yes, exactly.
Mine's not even that together.
Oh, really?
No, I didn't number mine at all.
Okay.
Suckers.
They're in the order that I thought of them.
Oh, okay.
So I guess I can use that as, the one that I thought of first for my top 10 list.
That works.
Is the best one? Sure. Why not?
I spent time and effort putting mine in a numbered order.
Well, I have mine ranked in basically time length, because like the first couple ones are up to 1 hour, and then like the middle ones are 1 to 2, and then my last ones are more than 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I cheated with one of mine because it encompasses like a bunch of games.
An entire fucking genre.
Don't worry, I put one of those genres in its own number.
There you go. That's
okay.
fine. Yeah, my number 1 is all games.
All board games ever.
My number 1 is board games. My number 2 is video games.
Actually, I'd probably go video games, board games.
Yes.
Not for me.
No.
10 years ago, absolutely.
Yes.
Now, no, not so much. Anyway, without much further ado, let's talk about what criteria we each came up with. Zach, yours is pretty simple. So how about you go and start us off here?
Okay. So mine's just basically, given the correct timing, it's a game that I would not say no to playing. And when I say correct timing, I mean if I have 20 minutes and it's a 20-minute game, I'll be like, yeah, I'll play it. So, but like, a 3-hour-long game isn't going to fit into that 20-minute period. Right. But if I have 3 hours to play it and I do actually have that time, then yes, I will totally play it.
Okay, so that's nice and straightforward.
Yes.
I thought we were talking about the criteria, and that was one of the things that kind of stuck with me. If I had applied that to me, though, that would encompass pretty much all of my games. Like, there's not many games that I own where I could see myself being like, oh, we have time to play this. No, I don't want to play this. There's a couple, but
there's a bunch of ones I have that I like. I like it. I might rather play this game instead. So it's like off of that too.
That's fair. Jeff, what criteria did you come up with?
It's basically the stuff that sort of got me into board games, stuff that I can look back on. It's pretty nostalgia heavy.
Okay.
But it's sort of a list of like all of the games through my life that like were huge.
Right.
And things that I loved and kind of have moved on from, but I can still look back and be like, I wouldn't like games like I do today without playing all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that'll actually be an interesting little
now I feel like shit.
different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
All right, and so I guess that comes around to me. My criteria is similar to Zach's in that these are all games that I wouldn't really ever turn down if I have the right amount of time. I would also throw the caveat that it would require the right players. There's some games on this list that I'm not going to play with if I'm the only person who knows the game. I'm not going to teach the game to a bunch of new people. So there's that minor caveat. But mine, I ultimately went with more of a desert island approach. Like these are the 10 games. If I had to limit my future board gaming to 10 games maximum, these are the 10 games that I would put in a pile or take to a zombie bunker to while out the apocalypse with only these 10 games to play the rest of my life.
Assuming that you have the amount of people to
Assuming
play
I have the requisite amount of people. Well, the most any one of them plays is like 6. So as long as there's 6 people, then I'll be good.
I think there might be.
They can play more,
yeah,
but you need at the biggest one you would need at least 6.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that's those are our vague criteria we put behind these lists.
Yes. Yeah. Are just fucking hours long thinking of just that.
Yep.
20 minutes.
10 minutes for me.
I suddenly feel way less bad about not having the neat story behind the 10 that Jeff does.
Yeah.
And my list is better than yours, Zach.
Fuck you.
Well, fuck you.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we've talked about how we made these lists, let's dive right into the list.
All right.
I guess I can start.
I guess you can.
I am going to go ahead, and the first game on my list that I'm going to talk about is also the lowest ranked on Board Game Geek on my list. It's not the lowest ranked on Board Game Geek because that'd be ridiculous.
I think that is Tic-Tac-Toe.
I think so.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Anyway, for me, that is Zombicide,
Okay.
which kicks in at 221 on Board Game Geek.
This is Zombicide, not Black Plague.
Not Black Plague.
Okay.
Which, I was a little torn on because I do like Black Plague, but so far I've only played Black Plague once with a bunch of expansions, and it kind of fell apart for me when I did that. So, like, base set box Black Plague, I really like, and if I was going to play just one box worth of Zombicide, that's probably what I'd go for.
Oh, not like the first, second, or third seasons, but straight
Yeah.
Black Plague. Okay.
Yeah. Now, Zombicide, when I talk about Zombicide here, I'm talking about the way I have it now, where all 3 of those seasons are in one big tub, and when
Yeah.
I play, you're going to see stuff from all 3 seasons show up.
Right.
And just go nuts. It's also the only cooperative game on my list.
Spoilers.
Ooh.
Spoilers,
Christ.
yeah. So, basically, I don't know. Zombicide just a game that I always have a lot of fun when I play. It sometimes drags on a little bit, but I definitely like getting it out. I like the big, huge cityscape. I like all the zombies. I like killing them all, watching your friends get torn to shreds. Just it's got a solid experience that I really like. So,
It sounds like a very cooperative game.
Zombicide, it makes my list.
Oh, cool.
Let me just note that, like, if you were in a bunker with nothing but competitive games for the rest of your life, good luck.
Also,
Well, that's why.
I feel if it's a zombie bunker, I feel like eventually people are like, you know what? I don't really like the zombie theme anymore.
This is true.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so that's my first one on my list.
Nice. I'll go next.
Okay.
Okay, my number 10 is Love Letter. And
Okay.
so this, the ranking on that one is 148. But I mean, I have specifically the Adventure Time one, but really most of them play the same. But I just love that it is it's a quick 4-player game. If you got 20 to 30 minutes, easily you can play it in that amount of time. I like that it has some deduction, some bluffing, and it does have player elimination, but because the rounds are so quick, no one feels bad about it.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know, it just has brought a lot of great moments that I've had. And I've introduced a lot of people to board gaming through that, and they all really liked it.
And on the player elimination, like, it has player elimination from round to round, but you're not out of the game. Like, you
Well,
get
I
knocked
know.
out of a
I
round,
know.
but you're
Yeah.
still in the game.
Yes.
So that's kind of nice.
It is, yeah.
Jeff, what's your number 10?
So my number 10 is Hero Quest.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I figured that one would be on there.
Yeah. Loved Hero Quest back in the day. It probably doesn't hold up. I also haven't played it in quite some time. But as it's sort of the descendant of all of those games I love now, like Mansions of Madness, Imperial Assault, Descent,
Right.
with that Overlord where you make your whole dungeon and play through, and there's a bunch of different scenarios you can do. It's one of the games that first hooked me into board games because it was my friend's cooler older brother's version of the game back in 5th grade. It's hard to say if it's still great or not,
Oh, okay.
but that one I couldn't not have in my top 10 list because
Right.
it's why I like board games so much.
Yeah.
That one sits at a nice 1367
Ooh,
on Board
nice.
Game Geek.
I
Now-
feel like it's because it is so old. Like,
Yeah.
so many new things come out. It pushes some of those old games down the
Yeah.
rankings.
Is part of it the like the amount of rankings, or the amount of votes, or just was it a lowish
I
voted?
don't know.
Okay.
I did not look at
yeah.
Gotcha.
how many votes. Yeah, it is old. I mean, a used copy can go for $400 or
Right,
something
yeah.
crazy now.
Yeah.
I bought mine before everyone went nuts for $65 complete.
There you go. Nice.
And that even back then, the expansions went for more than $200 or $300.
Damn.
Yeah, which I'm sure they are insane nowadays.
Right.
So I played it a couple years ago at a game night and thoroughly loved it. Yeah,
You love Overlords.
I do love Overlords.
Yeah.
I wasn't the Overlord in this one. I was just one of the guys running around in the map, smashing things. But I still really liked it. I felt like it was a really kind of accessible D&D light, and I got a lot of the same fun and role playing and dice chucking that I like about D&D in a board game, which I'm always a fan of. So
And one of many Games Workshop games about to be on my list.
there you go. Games Workshop should probably pay you after this list.
They used to.
All right, Zach, you want to start off with the number 9?
Yes. Number 9 for me is Cribbage. This is one of my favorite games to play with 2 or 3 people. And it is at a gentleman's 482 on Board Game Geek. And I will just say is no game will I curse more at than this game. And I've never gotten as fake mad as I have at somebody in this game. And it's
Okay.
Fake mad.
yeah. Well, I get mad at them, but it doesn't actually. I just vent at them or something like that
During
when,
the game.
Yeah. We just every single time I play down the card, they're like, "Oh, well, it's this for 2 points for me." Oh,
Yep. It's
okay.
like, oh.
Let me just 2 more points. Son of a bitch! God damn! Like that sort of thing. But I just really like. I don't know. It just feels really tight to me, and it's just something that 2 to 3 people can just work. And you can play 4 people to 6 people with teams.
Yeah.
But I feel like 2 to 3 is the sweet spot. And really, with 4 people, I would rather play euchre.
Okay.
But in that one, yeah, that is the 4-player game for me for cards. But yeah.
Okay. I like euchre a whole lot. I like cribbage a whole lot.
Uh-huh.
They're nowhere near a top 10 list for me. I thought about throwing like a deck of cards on my top 10 list as one of my top 10 games because you can do so much with a deck of cards.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I went with games.
Hey, cribbage also has a board. Thank you very much. It's a board game. Okay.
It does. It's
true.
In your face.
Cool. My next game is coming in a little bit higher up Board Game Geek rankings at a Gentleman's 207. And this is pretty much everybody's favorite intro game, Settlers of Catan. Settlers of Catan, some of this definitely comes a little bit from nostalgia because
Yeah.
Settlers of Catan was what got me into the hobby.
Right.
I would not be where I am today if it was not for that game. But I also really do think it's a pretty solid game overall. The dice can get a little bit funky. Sometimes you can have great setups that you lose because of bad dice rolls, but
Yeah.
it's fairly infrequent if you manage your game well and you game plan well. I really like the modular board setup, and so especially where this is, if I'm only playing these 10 games forever, I want games that are going to be a little different every time I play them. And Catan is always a little bit different every time I play it.
Do you play with the expansions still?
No.
No.
No, it's a bit. So I've only ever played in real life with Cities and Knights,
Uh-huh.
And I have never played with a Catan expansion.
Gotcha. Okay.
which I like Cities and Knights. I would leave it off just because it makes it less accessible.
Uh-huh.
It adds just enough complexity that I don't care for it. I've played Seafarers a lot on the app, and I like it. It just, again, it makes it too much to carry around, especially where like the Catan I take around with me now is my custom set
Yeah.
that doesn't include custom pieces for Seafarers.
Right,
So,
right, yeah.
But I do like that Seafarers evens out, I think, a little bit of the weight behind the resources by giving sheep something more to do.
That makes sense, yeah.
But no, this for the purposes of this list, I'm talking just base set 1 to 4 person Catan, not even the 5 to 6 expansion.
Gotcha. Okay. So I will say the only thing I don't like about Catan, or the main thing I don't like, is that especially if you're new to the game, you can lose the game from if you have a bad placement in the beginning.
Yeah.
You don't have a chance, especially against someone who actually knows how to play. And they actually pick good spots, and you pick a bad spot, unless the dice happen to really be in your favor.
That applies to so many games on my list right now, though, that like I'd say half of my list is not beginner friendly. But you just got to overcome
Yeah, I
that.
have a guess about some of your later ones, but I feel for this one, it's just that one spot, like that one mistake. Unless someone is really favorable to you, you just don't have a chance from the outset.
Yeah.
You mean I shouldn't put my settlement on a 2, a 12, and the desert?
No, you
Exactly.
should not. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but I feel like that's also can be mitigated by if you do a good job of explaining the game and how the
Yes.
game works, you can guide somebody on some early strategies so they don't get stuck with a truly shit start.
No, yeah.
But
Count the dots.
count the dots
Yeah.
and go for variety.
Yes.
But all right, Jeff, you're number 9.
My number 9 is Warhammer 40,000, the tabletop miniatures game.
Okay.
I had been looking at Warhammer 40,000 since I was in, middle school, 6th grade or so. I would always go to the mall and I would see all of these amazing miniatures and be like, man, I really want that. And then the price tag was like, holy shit. I finally got into the hobby around 2000, 2001, and then played it for 9 years straight. I would drive an hour each way to the only store that had tables,
Oh, wow.
which was Games Plus in Mount Prospect, Illinois. And I had a group of friends. We would meet up every weekend, and we would play all day long. And I had one of the biggest armies you could possibly buy, the Imperial Guard, with
Nice.
one of the highest miniature model counts. Only, I think, short by Tyrannid, who are, Zerg. Got me into, modeling hobby, and then I ended up working for Games Workshop after modeling and painting for quite some time.
Nice.
And met a lot of my still current friends through modeling and painting that I play World of Warcraft with 12 years later still.
Gotcha.
Cool.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and go right into number 7?
Or number
Or
8.
8.
Yeah.
Numbers matter. Have an order.
Yeah. My number 8 gets into a non-Games Workshop related game.
Oh.
Yes.
One of your few, I'm guessing.
Also, Warhammer 40,000 sits at a gentleman's 1840 on Board Game
Seriously?
Geek. Yes.
Wow. That's actually surprising.
Yeah.
Guessing it's because it's not terribly accessible.
Is that the first edition? Or?
I couldn't find an edition or anything
Okay.
on there. There's so many 40K board games.
Yeah.
But yeah. Also, Warhammer Fantasy kind of falls in there too.
Gotcha.
But,
Okay.
Which is 1167 for Warhammer Fantasy.
Okay.
Much higher regard.
Yeah.
But number 8 is number 70 on Board Game Geek, Star Realms.
Ooh.
Oh, there you go.
That's
Yeah.
at 70. Wow. That's actually a little surprising. I would have thought it'd been a little bit lower.
I
It-
could see it.
Yeah.
I found it at Gen Con about 3 years ago and played a demo, bought everything they had right then and there, and then have been playing it on and off ever since. The app for it is awesome, where I
is.
don't have to break it out and can just play and get destroyed by the AI whenever I want to.
Yeah.
It's also a deck builder, which I love, and it's a simple enough deck builder where I can pretty much teach anyone how to play the game in 15 minutes as I destroy them, because it's one of those games where like you don't really know it until you've played it.
Gotcha.
Because there's so many cards that can do really awesome combinations and stuff like
I'm going to
that.
complain for 1 second about the app. I just beat yet another one of the campaigns, and every campaign, it seems like, almost requires another expansion. Like, you get the first campaign with the purchase.
Yeah.
The second and third come with a purchase, and then the fourth and fifth, and then the sixth and seventh and eighth and ninth. I'm starting to feel a little microtransactioned out on the Star
There
Realms
only
app.
used to be 1 and 2, and as they've come out with expansions, they have added campaigns to use those expansion cards.
Yeah.
So as you get into it, it sort of seems like, oh, now I have to buy all this stuff, but it's the same with anything with a lot of expansions.
Yeah.
It's just been around.
Yeah,
I
like
guess.
Ascension had a lot of expansions, and it was like that
This
too.
is true. But they didn't have the campaign that made me feel like I want to keep going and playing this campaign, but now
So they're
I have
doing
to
it
pay
well?
money. Well, no, because I'm probably done with the campaign. I'll still play the app because it is a good app, and I do like Star Realms, but I'm probably done buying expansions for a little while. At least until my Google Opinion Rewards money gets boosted up to where I can buy expansions for free.
You're not even, yeah. you're
Just
not
learn
even paying
Spanish.
for it.
They'll send those suckers to you every
I
minute.
tried, and they've still slowed way down.
Eh.
But all right, so Zach, you're number 8.
My number 8 is Spyfall.
Spyfall, okay.
Yeah. So that is ranked 223 on Board Game Geek, and this is basically my hidden role game. I like it because it's really quick. It's 8-minute rounds. Possibility of going up to 10 or 9 or so if you go all the way through. But usually it's usually really quick, and every time we've finished playing it, it's like, all right, let's do it again, because it comes with 26, 25 different locations.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of variety there, and especially when you play with the roles, there's just nothing like, I ask you a vague question, you think about it for a second, you give me a vague answer, everybody laughs, and then you
See, and that's where Spyfall has recently lost me, because it's just always that vague question, vague answer, laughter, repeat. And so for me, it lacks a little bit of depth.
yeah, and so I can see that, but then again, I think from I don't play this game to have depth in it. I just want to have 8 people that want to, I will say, like the Resistance and some of those other ones, or like Battlestar Galactica, that are a lot more involved. That it always feels like they just added stuff on top of it, like on top of the hidden roles, and so I just feel that Spyfall just whittles it down enough to where it's at the best for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Solid game.
Yeah. I can't wait for the expansion, because then it's going to be up to 12 people and 2 spies. So, yeah.
Huzzah.
Yeah.
Right on. My number 8 comes in. I am now cracking the 200s. All the rest of my games are in the top 200 on Board Game Geek, because I'm a snob. It is 195, and it is Hanabi.
It's what?
Hanabi.
I heard snobby. Sorry.
Also, yes.
Yeah.
Hanabi for me is just, it's one of those fantastic little games. It takes up almost no space, so it's easy to take places. You don't need a lot of space to play it. It helps to have a little bit of space to lay the cards out, but you don't need much. So I take it camping. I take it, pretty much anytime I'm going out to the bar or a brewery or whatever, I'll grab it and have it with me just in case some people want to play a game. It's kind of a clever little twist on a typical game where the whole not knowing your cards and having to use clues and things. But I really like it. Me and Megan will play 2-player games of it, 5 or 6 in a row, just back to back to back to back, just always trying to chase that score just a little higher each time.
Yeah.
I think it's a great game for couples. I highly recommend it for couples.
Yeah, I can see that.
As a 2-player game, it really, really shines. I also like it as like a 3, maybe 4. It plays 5. Yeah, I think at 5 people, it gets to be. Yeah. It starts to fall apart a little bit that high.
You just have a lot less control with 5 people that you do with 2. So
now there's a game supposedly that is in the Sherlock universe.
Yes.
That supposedly is an even better, tighter version of Hanabi that I would be very eager to play and see how that falls in.
Beyond Baker Street, I believe is what it was called.
Yes, that is.
It was at Gen Con this year.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and so the guys from Shut Up and Sit Down don't like Hanabi. They loved Beyond Baker Street. Yeah. So I would really like to give that game a try.
Yeah, so. I do like Hanabi too. It's a fun little game.
Yeah. All right. So now that we're actually on to number 7, Zach, would you like to start number 7?
Yeah, my number 7 is Splendor, and this is the first one I have that's in the top 100. It's 83 on Board Game Geek, and I actually had a little trouble deciding if I actually wanted this on my list based on my criteria, and the only reason why is because I feel hesitant to play because my winning streak on it has gone so long. I'm like, what if I lose?
I really feel like you've lost one.
No, I have. I've lost some, but I'm on like a 14-game winning streak right now.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
But yeah, it's a great game. My favorite way to play it is 4 people. And I definitely played with 2 or 3, but it's funny just adding 2 or 3. It becomes a completely different game in terms of how you play.
Yeah, well, I think that has a lot to do with what you can buy based on the number of chips that are available.
Yes, my favorite strategy is not viable at all in 2 or possibly even 3 players. So but yeah, I just love it. It's also quick. It's 30 to 45 minutes. I love that it actually gives everybody a chance, the same amount of rounds. I always appreciate it when a game does that. And I just, I just like it. The turns always go so quick too. Yeah. Because you're like, okay, I do this, and then next part you guys do it, and it's just like, all right, I just finished setting my gems. Oh, it's my turn again. Sweet. But you actually have to pay attention to what people are doing because, if someone has a good strategy and you don't block them, then they're just going to win. And so you have to, hate draft and then, reserving stuff just to have them not have it. So, yeah. But I really like it. Yeah.
I absolutely agree. Splendor is easily one of mine. It'll actually, you beat me to it.
Spoilers. Don't mention anything.
Spoilers.
No, yeah.
No, but I agree. I think it's got a whole lot of depth for how short and relatively simple of a game it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely a favorite of mine.
I also like how small it can pack down too.
Yep, exactly. Mine's packed down nice and small. Yep. Also travels well. Any thoughts on that, Jeff? Splendor?
I've only played it 3 or 4 times. It's a good game, but Zach just destroys me every time.
You have to play with somebody not Zach.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's your 7?
My number 7 is Robinson Crusoe.
Love this game.
I love that game. It is so heavy thematically and just brutal.
It is.
It's got like really cool mechanics of like building your huts and hunting. There's so many different scenarios that completely change how you play the game.
They really do.
It's hard to find a way to not... It's hard to say you can play that game the same way twice, which is why I love it so much. But it's long. It's hard to bring out as much as you would like to play it.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it is mechanically heavy, and it's hard to teach new people. It's one of those games that's like, do you want to learn Robinson Crusoe? Oh, have you ever played it? Well, let's add at least an hour onto our playtime.
Yeah.
But
the worst was when nobody had played it, and we all tried to learn together.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. I think it took us like 4 or 5 games.
Yep.
Before
we won the first game, right. And then, the second and third game. And then we actually looked at the rules and we're like, because there are a lot of times, and this is the game where it's just like, well, you're trying to decide if how to play this. Which one hurts you more? That's the one that's actually correct.
Correct.
So no, definitely love Robinson Crusoe also.
Fantastic game.
Yep.
Have you played the expansion at all?
I have not played the Expedition of the Beagle.
Voyage of the Beagle.
Voyage of the Beagle.
Yes.
It's all Darwin stuff, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
I have it. I've been meaning to pull it out. So
Yeah, more scenarios can't hurt that game.
exactly. Yeah.
And I think there's even promo scenarios or something too.
And this one is actually like they actually go on top. It's an actual campaign versus each scenario. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
My number 7 is 176 on Board Game Geek.
Okay.
It is Isle of Skye.
Figured this would be on your list.
It is also, it is not quite. No, it is. It is the newest game as far as games that I own on this list
I can easily see this going up to 2025 at least.
over time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially like it just won Spiel des Jahres, which will give it a boost whether it deserves it or not. I personally think it does deserve it.
Uh-huh.
I think 176 is criminally underrated for this game.
Once again, it's just probably the lack of ratings and
Probably.
stuff like that.
So going into that whole theme of like games, these 10 games are the 10 games that I would, if I had to pick 10 to play for the rest of my life, and only 10, they would be on them. And this one gets on there because, again, that same thing, the replayability. You have like 20 different possible rules that you pull out and place in then they could, even if you have the same 4 rules, just putting them in a slightly different order completely changes how you approach those rules through that game. It's an excellent example of a game that I feel the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Gotcha.
Everything that it has, there's other games that have done it and done it better, like the bidding mechanic, the tile laying mechanic.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. Other games have used those and used them better. However, the way Isle of Skye uses them all together makes for just a great little game. I think it's a really easy game to teach. It's a game that you can teach somebody and they can actually win, and not through luck, just because they happen to identify a good strategy and get some luck, because there's some luck in what tiles you draw.
Yeah.
But and then there is just a ton of replayability with how random the starting rule set is, that then set up for a great little kind of Euro game past that.
Okay.
So
yeah, I've only played it once, and I enjoyed it. I think I need to play it a couple more times to see if I actually like it or not.
That's fair. Right on.
Yeah.
Moving on, I think we're at number 6. All the rest of my games now fall in the top 100.
Very fancy.
Yeah.
Starting to move right up in the world. And this is where I was upset at Zach, because he beat me by 1 spot. By 1 spot. My number 6 is Splendor. Again, at rank 83 on Board Game Geek. Basically, everything we just talked about with Splendor is why I love it. It is a game that, despite the fact that I am objectively terrible at that game,
That's very true, yeah.
I lose it regularly. It does no way, shape, or form diminish my desire to play it, which is rare for me. Usually, if I don't get a game or I lose at a game a lot, it makes me mad, and I don't want to play it anymore. But this game, I keep coming back because I always feel like I'm right there, and then I lose by 10 points. So,
yeah.
But no, it's fantastic. I love it. So that's my number 6.
There's not a lot of interaction in that game. It's like poker. Everyone's real quiet and then just moves stuff around, and then someone wins.
I would say the interaction is just through denial, either by taking the cards or taking gems that you know that someone else needs.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot of counting. It's like poker.
Yeah.
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 And nice. It's got some nice pieces in that game.
Yes, it does.
The component quality is fantastic.
Yes, it is.
I think different editions have changed slightly.
I heard the second edition, but I think that's not true.
Until I physically see them side by side,
Yeah.
I am not going to jump on that train.
Although I will say the very first edition, like the one I have, and then like a reprint of the first edition, they actually added the gem colors on the cards, or not just the colors, but the actual gem icons. So it made it easier for people to see, and the nobles have it as cards versus the other ones have them as circles. So it hopefully makes people easier, because so many times I've seen someone like, all right, well, I've got 3 of these green, I got 3 green gems and 3 red and 3 white. Let me go ahead and take that noble. And you're like, no, you have to do the cards. You have to do the cards.
Yes.
Yep.
So yeah.
Okay.
All right.
My number 6.
Yeah. Are we back on the Games Works Out train?
We are not. My number 6 is Arkham Horror.
Oh, okay, nice.
As 169 on Board Game Geek.
169. I thought that would have been higher.
It's
It
appropriate.
probably used to be.
You've never played it. Don't act like that.
That was my first interaction with any major interaction with the Cthulhu mythos.
Yes.
I didn't really know what it was before, and I had someone else introduced me to the game on a little game night we had started when I lived down in North Carolina. They had one of the expansions with it. The game was just so heavily thematic. All of those cards are awesome.
Yes.
You just get ruined in that game, and it's a lot of fun for me. Not everyone has the same opinions about that game because it can get a little long.
Yes.
But as long as you put aside the time to really enjoy and play through the game, I think it's one of the better Cthulhu games out there.
And then, a game or two to learn all the mechanics well and all that stuff.
Yeah, all the portals and monsters and monster movement. It's definitely a deep game. The expansions have definitely complicated that game a little beyond using more than maybe one at a time.
Yeah.
But you can totally play with all of them if you want.
Which
that
is
nightmare. Also has an app that you can use for all of the cards in case you don't want 24 stacks of Mythos cards next to the board. Only
24?
Yeah, and each one of those stacks has probably 25 plus cards in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love Arkham Horror.
Oh yeah, I've never played it, but
given your love of Eldritch Horror, I think you would probably still like Arkham Horror.
I think I would too. Yeah.
I think Eldritch Horror is a better game, but I haven't played it enough to really put it in my heart above Arkham Horror.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right.
Zach, your number 6?
My number 6 is Legendary Encounters Alien. That is 60 on Board Game Geek. This is probably my favorite deck builder.
Okay.
It's one of the first cooperative ones I had ever played. And I just love, the artwork on it is great, especially
considering how bad the artwork regularly is on Legendary games.
Yeah. I will say some of them are hit or miss, but especially all the wound cards are just great. It's you have one where the mouth tentacle thing from the aliens bursting through a guy's chest. It was just great. But yeah, it's just, I like that you can play through all 4 of the different movies, and it just, I don't know, every time I played with someone, there's people that I know that I've played with that hate board games, and they're like, oh, that was actually really fun. And it's hard too. That's also a good cooperative game is fucking hard.
Yes, that I do agree with.
And I just love it. And I liked Legendary Encounters, Predator and stuff, but the Alien one just hit a lot more for me. So
okay,
yeah,
right on. I think we're ready for number 5.
All right, I will go off. So my number 5 is Stockpile, and that is the newest game on my list.
Okay.
And this is 381 on Board Game Geek. Yes. It came out, I think, late last year.
Yeah.
What got me into the game was when I pre-ordered the expansion, the expansion, Continuing Corruption. I ended up buying the game, and I've played it a handful of times, and man, I love that game. I don't know. I just love that it's a game about insider trading, and that how much fun people have when you play as the different roles. Winning as Moneymaker Mitt, who's Mitt Romney.
Yeah,
it's just every time because it has a great bidding mechanic on there, and what I love is it actually has a top of your bidding, as in it goes from 0 all the way to 25, and then if someone's on 25, they have that one, but they paid out of their ass to get it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I've won the game where it's just you spend a lot of money, but it's I fucking know that there's some good stuff in there. And I love how the car, there's hidden information and just all the roles that can play with how you do those things. And I don't know, it's a really easy to get into stock game, but it just is, it's a lot of fun. And I think with there's a lot of stuff I haven't touched in the expansion that I'm just really looking forward to. So.
Okay. I've played it, I think, once, maybe twice with you. I like it. I definitely need more playthroughs to get a solid overall opinion on it.
Gotcha.
I have yet to play it or see it.
Yeah.
But I've heard you talk good things about it.
Yes. Yeah. Many good things.
My number 5 is Pandemic Legacy.
Ooh.
Number 1 on Board Game Geek by a hefty margin.
Yes, it is.
I love Pandemic.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite recommendations to anyone trying to get into board games.
Oh yeah,
just play Pandemic.
Yes.
I've done it to multiple people, and they all love it, and then that's kind of their entryway. Pandemic Legacy is sort of for those veterans of Pandemic that want something more, and you can, and as we have talked about previously, you can play it so many times, and it's different every time, and it adds that extra difference from base Pandemic that you can get in some of the expansions, but this is just so much better because you can personalize your board.
Exactly.
Your board is so different from someone else's. You all have different stories of how you play, what you did, what mistakes you made.
Yes.
That disaster that would have, like, if this didn't happen, we would have totally won that round.
Yeah.
And you get to tear up cards.
Yes,
which
you
is
do.
Unique.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for the legacy mechanic, yes.
In which there are only
3 games.
3 games.
There's, I guess, Seafall does now actually exist, and people have played and torn up cards in it.
Yes.
Because it's Risk, Pandemic, and Seafall.
And then some, like, I technically have a we didn't play test this at all legacies. It's, whatever.
Gotcha.
And I think there's other ones but yeah, the legacy the legacy system is Rob Davero's system, and that's only 3 games so far. So
yeah, and you get to play with stickers.
You do
as an adult.
As an adult. All right, my number 5 is it's pretty close to one of my favorites on this list. It's Race for the Galaxy.
Oh yeah,
clocking in at a 39 on Board Game Geek.
Gotcha.
It is just. I don't understand necessarily. Like, it's hard for me to articulate what I love about this game so much, but I just really do. This is a game that if I made a list totally off of Zach's standards, with that caveat I talked earlier about with the right people, there are almost no situations where I would turn Race for the Galaxy down. I really enjoy that game.
I do too. Yeah,
it's another one like Hanabi that I think excels as a 2-player game. I really like the 2-player variant for Race for the Galaxy. Megan and I play it together a lot. We can knock it out in like 30 minutes tops.
Yeah. Do you play with any expansions?
Yes. So I play with the first expansion.
Brink of War.
Brink of War, thank you. Which adds in a handful of cards, and I originally bought it because it added the solo variant, which I played a few times. I don't solo game much.
Right.
Like, and the 2-player version of that game is so awesome.
It is.
Yes. The especially, you get to play 2 cards every time, so there's a possibility of 4, a minimum of 2 of the different rounds happening. I love that role selection mechanic. I like it in games like Puerto Rico, and we've talked about how Race came from Puerto Rico,
yes,
through a couple of series of jumps, but but that general role selection where you're picking what one of the multiple steps of a round you want to do, and then you also get to do the ones that other people pick. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
so
I love Race.
Yes. How many times have you played Roll now?
I've played Roll probably a half a dozen times.
Okay.
So Roll is actually higher rated on Board Game Geek, because I was looking at it, and Roll I was thinking about putting on there, but I just vaguely prefer Race a little bit more.
For a lot of people, Roll has supplanted Race.
Yeah,
so
and I could
that's
see
why
that.
I was asking. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I do really, really like Roll. Some of it also came down to the fact that I own Race.
Yeah.
Race is easier to transport and play. I think Roll you need a little bit bigger box. Like I take Race camping. I'll come back to that a lot with a lot of these games. These are games that I take out, when I travel and stuff. They're easy to throw into a bag and go.
Okay, cool.
I'm a big fan of Race.
Yeah, it's a fun game. I definitely know that the second and third expansions definitely like bloated it and added a lot of mechanics that people didn't like.
Yeah.
And then also the next series, that expansion, some people liked the cards but hated the actual mechanic, and then there's a third set of expansions.
There's one that's just like research on a monolith or something.
But the thing is that like these like you can't just add all of them. Yeah.
No.
You have the 1 through 3 and then that one and then that other one, and it's you choose which one you want to put in.
It's like the Pandemic in the Lab one.
Yeah.
Where it's like totally different mechanics.
Or like, even Settlers did that towards the end. They had like Cities and Knights and Seafarers that you can in theory play both of those with the base set of Catan. But then they start getting into some of the other later expansions, and they're meant to be like a standalone little option where you do like a specific thing for each one.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
Number 4.
Bum, bum, bum. My number 4 is one step above Race on the Board Game Geek rankings.
Really? Legitimately.
It is number 38. Race was 39. This is number 38. Patchwork.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I this one was definitely in contention for me, but I think it's because I don't own it was the main reason why I didn't put it on here.
I own it, and it's another one. It more than any other game that I own is one that I have had no problems teaching to people who don't play board games.
Yeah.
It's got a nice little simple. It's nice that it's just a 2-player game, so they're not there's not a lot of downtime, especially for a new player,
Yes.
for them to get bored. Like, it's always like, all right, it's your turn, it's your turn.
Yeah.
And sometimes they get to take like 2 or 3 turns in a row. And little things like if you get it towards the end when you have a good board and you pass one of those buttons, you get to pull a bunch of buttons in, or you get to make some cool moves. You know, it feels very rewarding. And I just think it's a pretty mechanically tight game.
It is.
I like it.
It's a great one for teaching people, especially because, you know, you can't choose. You can only choose the 3 tiles in front of that token. So it's always easy to be like, when you're teaching a new person, you'd be like, all right, well, if you're having any trouble, like out of these 3, this one's probably the best because, you know, these cost too much. You can't afford, like, and especially like that, it's just like, well, you can only really afford one. So
your decision is simple.
Exactly. But then like learning when to pass to make it to where people can't grab certain tiles and, you know, to get more buttons for you, because it sucks when somebody buys a tile that's 6 time and then they put it in a place where you now realize that all 3 of the ones in front, you know, in front of that token you can't buy, and so you just have to waste all that time. It is the worst.
Definitely.
I love teaching that game to people though, so
It's easy enough to understand.
exactly. Yeah.
But there's some mechanic depth
Yes.
and strategy that you can get real nasty with it.
You can. And every time I've played it with someone, it's always been 2 games because I teach them.
Yep.
And then they're like, oh, okay.
Teach them by destroying.
No, actually, most teaching games I'd lose, but I think that's probably because a lot of time I'm like, I'm telling you, this is probably your best choice, you know. And then
Except
they're
that
like,
first
okay.
game you played against me.
Well, you don't count, but
Yep.
but then they're like, oh, okay, that was great. You want to play again? Yeah, definitely. Especially because it only takes 15 to 20 minutes or so. So yeah.
All right, cool. Jeff, your
My number 4 is Star Wars Rebellion.
Ooh, I own this game and I love it. It's a great game.
It is a really nice
I
game.
think the main reason I didn't even consider putting this one is because I've only played it, you know, once. So
I've played
really
it twice, and so it did not make my list, and I don't own it.
It
But it
left
is a great game.
Such a heavy impression on me that, like,
it immediately shut up.
yeah, like I was like, I know multiple people that own it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to own it.
Yeah.
This $100 board game.
Right, yeah.
Because it is so awesome. I played a lot of Star Wars Rebellion on the PC, which is an old strategy game that you played as the Rebels or the Imperials. I loved that game. This one, I can see little hints of that PC game in here, and it's a game that you can play for 5 hours and doesn't feel like 5 hours.
Yeah, that is very true.
Yeah, that definitely is true.
You can play that game in so many ways because it's just random enough to where you're not going to see the same characters, you're not going to see the same events, you're not going to see the same objectives, and then you can just swap sides, and then it's a whole new game.
And really, it like the strategy, like you have like 2 parts. You have your beginner part where you're just learning everything, and then you have the intermediate to expert where you're like, oh, I know all of these things, so if I do this, they might have a card that can affect this, and like you go into a whole different level of planning and pre-planning.
One of the things, you know, we talked about this in our Star Wars Rebellion episode, because we do all 3 love this enough that we did a whole episode about it.
We did.
One of the things that we talked about there that I really like is the way it nails the theme. As the Empire, you feel like you're always on the verge of crushing the rebellion, but they're just being just annoying enough to keep you at bay.
Yeah.
And as the rebellion, it's the exact opposite. You always feel like the Empire is moments away from crushing everything that you love in the world, and you just have to keep chipping away at that big wall until it tumbles down. And so
It is
love it.
It is the most emotionally crushed I've ever felt at a loss in any game I've ever played. Like, you invest so much into that game.
Yeah.
Because it's so fun and you can pull off so many cool things, and it makes its own story. And then when you lose, it's like, ugh.
Because usually it's like you lost because of one thing. Like
it's close.
Yeah, it's always pretty close.
And I think the way that game's designed to do that is
It wasn't close for me the last time I played. But
it wasn't close the first time Zach and I played either.
That's true.
But the one real solid
games.
game we had into it, it
it
was.
feels close though, even in games where I know I'm getting blown out. Like, and there's other games do this. Like, you feel like you're losing, and then all of a sudden you turn around, and you come back and win the game.
Yeah.
But this is definitely one where even when you know you're getting blown out, you always feel like
There's a
I
chance.
can turn it around. There's a chance.
Yep.
So
Cool.
we're not alone in our love of that game, because I don't think you mentioned it, Jeff, but that game is ranked number 10 on board.
Is it 10 now?
It's
Damn.
10. now.
Yes, yeah. Board Game Geek number 10.
So we're not alone in our love of that game.
Yeah.
What is War of the Ring?
I don't know.
Don't know?
I don't
Okay.
have the list in front of me. So.
Okay. All right.
All right, Zach, your number 4?
My number 4, as already been mentioned, Pandemic Legacy. Ranked number 1, yeah. Just
Your campaign's going better than mine, clearly.
clearly. Yeah, basically all the things that Jeff said, I'm going to echo that. I love Pandemic, and I absolutely love the Legacy mechanic.
Yep.
And so putting both of them together was a winning score for me.
Perfect.
And yeah, pretty much. I can't wait for us to finish, and then we can start on Seafall. So.
Yes.
And Tim Leacock's a nice guy.
Tim Leacock is a really nice guy.
Matt Leacock?
Matt Leacock.
Leacock.
I'm sure his brother Tim's a nice guy,
Yeah.
too.
Whoever Tim
I
is.
really hope he has a brother, Tim.
I hope so, too. Yeah.
I'm just talking about I met his brother. His brother's real nice.
No, but Matt Leacock is a really nice guy, and hopefully next year Gen Con we're going to meet him.
Yes.
And play Pandemic
him once.
with him.
Shut up.
Yeah, we know. You've talked about
Yeah.
this. All right.
Number 3 now?
Number 3.
We are getting up there.
We
in
are.
numbers.
I'll go first.
Okay.
So my number 3 is ranked 248, and this is Tales of the Arabian Nights. I absolutely love this game. I know you do not, Adrian.
I do not.
So, this is a 2, I guess technically you can play it solo, maybe, but it's, let's say 2 to 6 player game. 3 people is the sweet spot, because everybody, on every turn, somebody's doing something.
See, and I've never played with 3. I think that would help change my opinions of that game.
I've played it with 6 people before. It drags forever.
Yep.
And, half the time you just feel like you're not doing anything.
I don't think I've seen this game played or seen this game.
Okay, well, it's basically a storytelling game. It's
Okay.
like, it's a choose your own adventure game, basically.
All right.
Basically, like
I love those books.
right? It's So you say you encounter a angry priestess. Are you going to avoid her? Are you going to beat her? Are you you have you're going to rob her, enrich her, ask for help? Like, you have all these choices that you can make, and then
I assume there's a lot of choices in the game.
yes, there are. There are 2,500 paragraphs
Wow.
in the Book of Tales that you can read from.
That is impressive.
It is, and I just love all the stories that you can get through the game, and it's just a great time just to see how much fucked up shit can happen to you in that game. But it is not a game you go to win. It's not a competitive. It is competitive, but it's not competitive in that sense. It's just you're all just exploring and just seeing what messed up stuff, because you really don't interact with each other, basically.
You don't even hardly get to interact with yourself. Like, this is one of the things that I dislike about this game, and I'm going to take a second to talk a little negative on it. Not too bad, because what it does perfectly. It's just not the right game for me, because this is a game where every time I've played it, I felt like I didn't play a game. I sat around and watched a game happen. Like, I didn't, the choices you get to make in it, I feel there's just, you never know what a given choice is going to result in, so there's no meaning. You might as well toss a coin. Sometimes, like, you'll build up a guy who's got like swashbuckling and fighting and something else, and you'll get into a brawl with the city guards, and you're like, oh, I'll fight them, and you pick fight, and they're like, oh, you fought them, and they're clearly better than you, so they throw you in jail, and you sit in jail for the next 6 turns trying to get out. But then in some other situation, you're like, oh yeah, you see this poor beggar on the road, and like one of the options is like, do you use your fighting ability? And you're like, why would I do that? But then that's like the right way to go, because you don't fight him because he's a poor beggar on the road. Nope, he's a marauder hiding as a beggar, and now you're wounded and destitute, and there's never any rhyme or reason to what comes from your actions.
That's life.
Which I play, and that's fair.
And I'm not talking about the game either. I'm talking
I play
about
board
life.
games to get away from life.
Okay.
And that just feels too much like
So
life.
I will say this: when I play, I definitely tweak a couple things, because there are some things that just don't make it fun to play, and so it's just because there's a card that just makes all your abilities worthless, that you have to do certain things to get rid of it. We're just like, well, you just get it for 3 turns, because you're not grief stricken forever. You're just it takes a little while, but then you get over it. So
Yeah.
So there are a couple tweaks that I've made, but with those, I love playing this game, and it's
Okay. Jeff, your number 3?
My number 3 is complicated. So my number 3
it's
is
complicated. Isn't that a movie?
Yeah.
And a relationship status.
Yes.
So my number 3 is Blood Bowl / Games Workshop Specialist Games. Out of all the Games Workshop stuff I've played, their specialist games have been the most interesting and fulfilling in enjoyment than their base, like, huge army level stuff.
So when you say a specialist, what do you mean?
So they had spin-off games from all of their others. So there is Blood Bowl.
Which is about football.
Yep, ranked 132.
Nice.
There is Mordheim, which is their skirmish level fantasy,
Okay.
which is also you build a warband that levels up and gains skills and injuries and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Fantasy based. That one ranked 829.
Okay.
Necromunda, which is the 40K version of that.
Okay.
The coolest part about that is 3D terrain.
Ooh,
it
nice.
comes with like a lot of cardboard and plastic pieces to build up into it's a hive city. It's one of the giant multi-kilometer tall slums, basically.
Gotcha.
And your gang's all fighting in there. And a whole bunch of different cool looking gangs with different abilities and weapons. Cool line of sight and height stuff in there. That one ranked 704.
Nice.
Also Space Hulk.
Oh yeah.
Space
I
Hulk
played
third,
that.
Space Hulk third edition, which I have, which is one-on-one Space Marine Terminators versus Gene Stealers,
Yeah.
and just endless swarms of gunning things down. Lots of interesting scenarios and tile pieces to make kind of your own missions. And a couple other like Lord of the Rings ones were in there for a while, but all of those games I spent probably the majority of my time at Games Workshop playing and being interested in until Games Workshop wiped them off the fucking planet and stopped supporting them because they're like, oh, well, they can play a game for only like $40, not $400, so we have to stop making those.
They at least have been pretty cool with, like, I know Blood Bowl in particular, of not shutting down fan production stuff. Like, there's been Kickstarters for Blood Bowl teams that I don't think were ran by them, and they don't shut them down. They don't hate on anybody trying to play Blood Bowl. They let people who want to play Blood Bowl play Blood Bowl.
Yes, and I think it's partially because they don't see a money opportunity in there.
Right.
We'll see what happens when the new edition of Blood Bowl comes out.
Yes.
And I know they've already mandated, like, all Games Workshop tournaments need to have Games Workshop models.
Yeah.
You can't use your cool-looking ninja goblins
Yeah.
that you paid $150 for. You have to use our ninja goblins that you paid $250 for.
Yeah.
But yeah, Games Workshop specialist games. They all have that persistence to them that I love in games.
Right.
And they play short enough. They're not 4 hours like 40K. They're 40 minutes.
Gotcha.
And then you get to roll stats and do fun things.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever played a real life Blood Bowl, like not computer one, but an actual sit down one that has been less than like an hour and a half to 2 hours. So
Yeah, real life Blood Bowl is much longer. That's
It
the
is.
longest. But Blood Bowl is kind of number 3/specialist games.
Gotcha. Okay.
all right. So my number 3, coming in at number 32 on Board Game Geek, Twilight Imperium,
Third edition.
third edition,
What-
with both expansions.
Yes.
I love the full all day long end up hating your friends and life after 12 hours of board gaming version of Twilight Imperium. There's a couple games, if we have some time at the end, we're going to talk about games that didn't make the list.
Yeah.
There are at least 2 games that did not make the list specifically because Twilight Imperium did, because I think Twilight Imperium does everything that I like from those games at least as well, if not better, than those games.
Yeah.
There's no other game that I can think of that really pulls me in for an entire day like Twilight Imperium. Like Twilight Imperium, I really feel like I am at the helm of this race that I'm playing, making political decisions, technological decisions, and military decisions that could either make my race succeed and be prosperous or fall into oblivion and forgetfulness. Just everything about it I love. It's, there's, I love it, and I could go on for days about it, but I'm not going to, for time reasons. But Twilight Imperium definitely makes the list. Easily the longest, heaviest game
Yeah.
on this list.
It's a great game.
My number 2.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of number 2s, because
Okay.
we're on number 2 now.
We are.
Yes.
Is Twilight Imperium. Same thing. I love all of those big, heavy computer games
Yeah.
that you do all of that same kind of stuff in.
Yes.
Being able to do that in a board game with just such depth in it, with
Yeah.
just a million different things you can do.
Yeah.
So many cards.
So many
many cards in that game.
So many
So many
minis,
cards,
so many
minis.
tiles, so many, just everything.
There's no way you can see a millionth of that political deck in one game.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
so many cards that come out of there that I'm like, that's been in the game? Is that from is that an expansion? No, that's been in there for the beginning? Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's a great game.
Yeah.
I love
It is never once played out the same. Like some
No.
games are more aggressive and militaristic. Some are all about political things. Some are tech wars. There is
Yeah.
always a little bit of fighting, but it's great.
And you can change that game with those political cards, like
Yes.
like dreadnought limits. Like, you can only have 2. But I have 5. Well, you can only have 2. And that totally shuts down like war races,
Yeah.
which can make them dicks to you sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. Twilight Imperium is awesome.
All right.
All right, so for my number 2, I have sitting at number 20 on Board Game Geek. I've got Codenames for number 2.
Really? Wow.
I threw Codenames in there. Codenames is, again, it falls into that earlier category I talked about a little bit with Patchwork. Really replayable. You know, and it's the same thing kind of like with Twilight Imperium. There's a ton of cards. They're double-sided, so there's a ton of potential word combinations that you can see out on that grid. It's accessible, and it's another one that I've never not had fun playing it. You know, people are laughing and joking, especially if you get a good group where, like, the opposing team is trying to fuck with the, like, team that's currently going. Like,
that's,
you know,
I always do that whenever I play.
Yeah, like, oh, you know, he said tree 4. Well, clearly, you know, doors are made from wood which grow on trees.
Exactly.
So you should pick door.
Yeah.
It's like, what? No. That,
Yeah.
For
No,
this, no. So
Until you accidentally do one that makes sense. And
Yes.
give them a point.
yeah. So, or if you're the clue giver, you know, and you give a clue like that, and the opposing team says something like that, and your team's like, oh yeah, that doesn't make any sense. We're gonna ignore them. And it's like, no, they're actually right this time. Listen.
Yeah. But you can't say anything.
Yeah.
You just have to show nothing in your face, but you die a little in the
But
inside.
I have a ton of fun playing it. I think it's got, you know, tons of replayability. So going back again, like, these are the 10 games that if I could only ever play 10 games, I would want to make sure and make room for them. I would want to make sure and make room for Codenames.
It's a fun game. Have you? I know they have like an adult version of it, but I don't know. That one seems.
I haven't played it, but it's one I don't feel like you need an adult version of. It's an adult version. It's not raunchy. You know, I don't feel like it needs a raunchy version, especially for that one. Like oh, what kind of naughty clue could I get that's going to get somebody to pick testicles? Oh! Like it seems overly immature and just pandering, and it's not actually put out by Vlada/Check Games. It's like a knockoff. So, Zach, you're number 2.
My number 2, it is ranked 30 on Board Game Geek, and it is Eldritch Horror. As it's not surprising at all. It is definitely my favorite Cthulhu themed game. This is a game where, especially with all the expansions and stuff, you can spend 4 to 5 hours playing this game, and it's just, I love the theme. I love how just all the different stories you get from it, and I like that it's all like it's a world hopping one versus like Arkham or Mansions where it's like, you know, more insular and smaller scale, whereas Eldritch is the entire world. And I don't know, I really enjoy how they did all the cards, and
I haven't played it enough, but the one time I think I've played it once, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it's a really fun game.
I don't care for it. It's not up my alley.
Cthulhu plus other reason.
Yes, exactly. Cthulhu plus other reasons.
Yes.
All right. So we are on to the number one.
Number 1.
All right. And my number 1 is ranked 32 on Board Game Geek, and it is Twilight Imperium 3rd edition.
So we were talking before we started recording, when we were setting up, we were talking about if there was going to be one.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know each other's lists. So we were curious if there's going to be one that was going to show up on all 3 lists. And I think this is the only one.
That we figured.
A surprise from Jeff that puts...
I don't think Splendor is going to be
put Splendor on there, and I don't think Jeff is going to put Splendor.
No.
So, barring a surprise from me, because you guys had a pair that matched earlier, didn't you?
Maybe. I don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But so this was it. This is the one that showed up on all 3 of our lists.
This is the game. I have a picture of us playing this game that when I tell someone I play board games, I'm like, oh yeah, I play some of these other ones. But let me show you how deep it can go. And it's just a huge table covered in minis and cards and tiles, and they're like you can just see their eyes sort of glaze over and like, oh my god, like this is too overwhelming. And I'm like, yeah, it's an amazing game. I would never ask you to play it because you can barely play Monopoly or something like that, but it is one of my favorite games. But like you said, it's hard to play it just because of how much time it takes. All
right, Jeff, your number 1.
My number 1 is ranked number 5 on Board Game Geek and is Caverna.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, I would love to get to play that if somebody would ever bring it around.
So the hard part about Caverna is it's like Agricola, which I love Agricola, and it would probably be on my top 10 list, except if Caverna hadn't just totally supplanted it. It's just a way better version of Caverna, or of Agricola, without all of the stupid item cards and building cards. That it's like the drafting is cool in Agricola, but we sort of move beyond that in Caverna and add some other cooler mechanics instead of that.
I know that some people, I know a lot of people liked Caverna, and sorry.
Zach's losing his mind here.
Because I know things. But basically, like, I know some people are like, I like Caverna, but it feels sort of similar every time you play. Whereas with the cards, it sort of tailors what strategy you're going to go off each time. So it, like, amps up the replayability.
When you're talking about the cards, you're going back to Agricola, that Agricola has the replayability because the differences in cards.
I'm saying that people say that,
yes.
yes. Yeah.
And I think there's too many cards, and they play off each other too well, that if you get that one card or that pair of two and just destroy everyone else, that you don't have to deal with that in Caverna. And I think can be some imbalance in the drafting in Agricola that I don't enjoy all the time. And there's so many cards, and it's hard to know everything that's in there, and there's been so many expansions. I still love Agricola, and it's amazing, but Caverna just sort of tops it.
Okay.
Awesome resources. I got the fancy broken token for it.
I saw that. Yeah, it looks nice.
It does look very nice.
It's
I'm sorry.
All right, so before Zach loses his mind, I'm just going to go ahead and my number one is totally Agricola.
Yes, it is.
So that's why Zach's like, it's one of the handful of games on my list that Zach actually knew was on my list.
Yeah.
And so as Jeff is over here, I'm talking about how Caverna replaced and supplanted Agricola, and I'm just sitting over here like, well, shit, I wish I wasn't going last now. No, so I have not played Caverna, so it is entirely possible that Caverna could be a game that could supplant Agricola.
And I enjoy there's two modes to it. There's sort of they cut out a lot of the buildings that you can make, the tiles, to make it a slightly simpler for newer players. And then there's a complicated or advanced version that adds everything into the game so that you can build all the tiles and all the fancy stuff.
Right.
So you don't have to go fucking 100 miles an hour on your very first game.
Yeah.
And you can sort of scale down the already pretty complicated game that a lot of mechanics behind it into something more manageable by newer players.
Yeah.
And I heard that you can, so, I don't mean to, it's not trying to shit on your game again.
Shit all over it.
But, Agricola, you want to have at least have a bit of everything.
Yes.
And then, try and get as much as you can. Whereas, like, Caverna, it's not as steep, it's not as bad a penalty because, like, if you want to you want to go all in on sheep.
Yeah.
Like, it can actually,
because there are specific buildings you can buy or tiles that you can buy that will give you that, like, I'm going to go sheep. I need this. I buy this. I'm going sheep.
right.
And it's cooler because you have mountains and forests.
Yeah.
And they're you don't have to mess with any fence tiles.
I already just don't even want to talk about Agricola anymore. I haven't even gotten to it. I don't want to talk about it.
Have played Agricola far more, but the couple times I've played Caverna have really put it at the top of my list of games that I don't play enough.
Nice. Okay. Now, Adrian, what about
Adrian, what's your number one?
So my number one being Agricola it's a fun game. I like it a lot. I haven't played Caverna, but apparently it's way better, and I should go fuck myself.
I will say a lot of people from, like, how much you like those cards will dictate whether you like Agricola or Caverna better.
So I like the cards from kind of what you had touched on that some people say, in that it gives a little bit more direction.
Yeah.
Because like Agricola, one of my problems that I struggle with at Agricola is like I know what I need to do. I know that, like you said, you need a little bit of everything to really do well. If you need because there's the 3 animals, there's 2 crops, and then there's houses and family and stuff like that. And if you don't have at least one in pretty much every category, you're going to lose points in that category.
Yeah.
You need at least one to score 0, and then you get more the higher you score. So the cards give me at least something to focus on. Like, okay, yeah, so I still need to get sheep, but because of my cards, if I focus on cows predominantly, I'm going to do better.
Right.
Or if I focus on vegetables instead of grain, so I like the cards for that way. I don't do a draft when I do Agricola cards because I think that could really lead to somebody running it. Like whoever, on that first draft,
whoever
gets
knows
the right card
and knows the most about it.
And then, if you're drafting, then you're getting to pick, 3 or 4 cards that definitely work together. Like I like getting dealt 7, and then you're like, all right, which 2 do I want to put together? And then the rest I'm just going to set to the side because I can't focus on all 7 of these cards.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot. I like that Agricola, kind of going back to Splendor. Splendor I talked about was a game that I like despite sucking at it. Mm-hmm. So I don't suck at Agricola, but every time I play, I feel like I am sucking.
Yeah.
I'm usually I am always within like 5 points of the winner. Either I'm the winner by 5 or I've lost by 5. You know, I'm right in that range, right around whoever wins. So I'm always right there at the end. But during the game, it's just mind-numbingly frustrating sometimes. You feel like, oh man, there's so much I need to do, and I have 2 actions until harvest, and my people are going to starve to death, and this sucks. But then you pull through that season and the next, and all of a sudden you're totaling up points, and the span of from lowest to winner is like 10 points, and nobody was really out of the game, and it was close and awesome. And then the next time you play, you're like, all right, well, I only lost by 10 points. I can make that up this time.
I think that's also a game, though, where if it's your first time playing,
you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle.
You're going to lose hard, and you're going to just feel like you're worthless, and just you let a family die. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Or at least starve.
Yes.
At least starve. So those are our
It's like, I'm
top-
sorry, you can't eat the sheep without the thing that lets you cook the sheep.
Yeah. No eating raw meat on this.
Sorry, Billy's going to starve this winter.
Yeah.
Damn it. Yeah.
All right, so that covers all 3 of our top 10
Yes.
board games. So the number ones for each of us were Twilight Imperium for Zach,
Yep.
Agricola for me, and Caverna for Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
We will post in the show notes on our website these lists with, maybe some links to some of them or something like that. And that way you can actually go back and look over our list and see what kind of games each one of us like.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to understand which one of us you want to side with in arguments or who you want to trust when they recommend a game.
Right.
There's obviously some overlap between all 3 of us.
But not-
There's a
not
fair
as
amount
much.
of differences. No,
Yeah.
not nearly as much as I was expecting,
Pandemic
especially
Legacy.
between you and I.
Yes.
Pandemic Legacy, Splendor, and Twilight Imperium were
think-
kind of the top
I think
cross
that was
list.
it for, yeah.
That was it. So those are so that's all of that. Real quick here,
Yeah.
we're running a little long on the
It's
episode.
fine. It's
but,
okay.
But this is our 10th episode.
Exactly.
This is episode number 10, not our 10th episode.
Yeah.
This is episode number 10. I'm going to be okay with taking it a little bit long because I
Yeah.
do really want to talk about 2 things from my list. I want to talk about some games that didn't make the cut and why.
Okay.
And then I want to talk about some games that I could see worming their way sneakily into that list.
Okay.
And I know, Zach, you said when we were doing show prep that there were some you wanted.
Yeah. I just
to
have a
talk
couple,
about.
though. So, yeah.
Jeff, did you have any that you want to talk about outside of your top 10?
So Caverna sort of took over for my worker placement slot on my list. But Lords of Waterdeep is one of my favorites. It's I haven't played with the expansions.
Okay.
I own them.
Okay.
Love Lords of Waterdeep. Great worker placement game. Another one that has sort of been dear to my heart is Dungeons and Dragons 2nd Edition, if we want to bring pencil and paper into it.
Okay.
Because that was pretty fundamental to my board gaming existence. It's when I started going to Gen Con and all that fun stuff.
Right.
But that's about it for... I didn't really have to struggle to cut things off my list.
Yeah.
I mean, I own a million games. And and Power Grid, which is probably my favorite Euro game of... Not really worker placement, but I don't really know what to call that kind of...
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bidding and...
Just say like that, the common like accepted idea in board gaming is that there's Euros and there's Ameritrash. Those are way too broad
They
to
are.
cover. But
Yeah.
I mean,
sort of a...
it's just like they're just wide umbrellas of, Euros, just more the mechanisms and being something tight, whereas...
Yeah.
Ameritrash is
Thematic.
It's a thematic and sort of loosey-goosey with its rules and how tight it is, but it brings you into the game better, whereas this is like a tighter game.
yeah.
Power Grid, a fantastic bidding and resource management game.
There we go. Yes.
So I had a few games that I listed under near misses. I have 10. I'm not going to talk about all 10 of them individually because a few of them lumped together, and the reasons why they didn't make the list are really explained in that whole idea that these are games, like if I had to pick only 10 games to play for the rest of my life, I wanted them to fit a set kind of idea. So the first 3 that would all have made the list if I had done it just on favorite games to play, period, and not added in that extra requirement of longevity. And those 3 are Pandemic Legacy, which was on both of you guys' lists,
Yeah.
Time Stories, which was on nobody's lists,
Yeah.
and Robinson Crusoe, which was on Jeff's list. All 3 of those, I love the games. I love the mechanics. I really like playing them, and I would hardly ever turn down playing them under the right circumstances. But they are so bound by the story that they're not ones that are going to have longevity. Like, I don't think I will ever play Pandemic Legacy after we finish our Legacy game.
Yeah.
I don't see myself playing any of the Time Stories missions more than maybe one more time. And it'll be a long time before I'm ready to come back to it.
Yeah.
Same with Robinson Crusoe. I really like when we play, but we're kind of playing it like a campaign where we play a mission, and then if we win, we move on. If we lose, we replay it till we win. I'm not going to want to keep coming back to old missions regularly with that game. A couple of the other games, Twilight Imperium made the list because it is fantastic. It knocked 2 games out of the list because I felt like everything that they do, Twilight Imperium does better, and that was Game of Thrones and Eclipse.
That's Game of Thrones. I was trying to think of what your other one was.
Game of Thrones and Eclipse. I really, again, love both those games and have a blast playing them, and they fall in that same kind of
Epic strategy,
diplomacy,
alliance games,
long time, like full day games that are just so full of energy and awesomeness that I love playing them. But Twilight Imperium does them all better, so I left them out. Zombicide knocked Dead of Winter off.
Oh, really?
Twitter followers will notice that I did a top 9 the other day because it was trending, and my top 9 had Dead of Winter then because I did it real quick in like 10 minutes while I was at work. After I really sat down and got into thinking about this list and what I wanted it to mean, Zombicide ended up coming out ahead of Dead of Winter. Then the other 2 games, they don't really fit anywhere else. Dominant Species I love, and I tried to find a place for it on the list, but I couldn't. I don't play it enough.
Yeah.
It's hard to get to the table.
A game I own and have yet to play.
I also left off Twilight Struggle, which is
Okay.
one of my favorite 2-player games, but it's hard to get to the table. It's hard to get a play.
Yeah.
And then Mansions of Madness First Edition, which kind of falls under, well, never mind. There was a game that I was going to put on the list that I'll talk about in a second, that Mansions of Madness First Edition could have made an appearance, but it just didn't quite have it. It takes a little bit too long, and again, hard to get to the table.
Yeah.
My list.
And then one mistake in setting that up, and you can
ruin the game.
So.
It also suffers from the replayability issue that some of them do, where you're not going to want to keep playing some of those missions over and over and over and over again. So those are the ones that missed for me. I have one other category I'll talk about, but before I do, I'm going to let Zach talk about the ones that aren't on his list.
So I did want to give a shout out to Blood Rage. I think if I play that game more, it might creep up to my top 10, but I've only played it a handful of times, and I don't know. I want to get a more solid statement or whatever thoughts on it.
Yeah. Okay.
But 2 that I know would have been on, a year ago or whatever, they would have been on, but they have since dropped off. One is Android Netrunner.
Yep.
And that's it just got tired. I just got tired of keeping up with it. And everything started changing so fast. And it was just like every time you made a deck and you played it for a little while, it's like, oh, a new expansion is out that adds stuff that completely breaks that. And you're like, oh, okay. And just especially trying to play it competitively or anything like that, it was just like, I'm not good enough for that. And it's just...
Don't have the time and effort good at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just play Hearthstone instead.
I've been doing that. And then my other one is Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Yeah.
And that one I think is just because I've played it too much.
Fair enough.
That every time I get asked to play it, I'm like, okay, I guess. And then we play, and it's like it's it's this one. I'm like, okay, well, I've probably played that.
So do you think that the new expansion Widow's Walk could bump that back onto the list?
I don't think it'll bump it back up, but it would probably make it so I'd actually want to play again.
Okay.
Like I'm okay with never playing Betrayal again, just because I feel I've gotten all of it out that I could.
Okay.
So
the last little category that I want to talk about for me, relating to games that didn't make the list, is these are the games that when I look at games that might be on the list in the future. I've got a short list here. One of them, Star Wars Rebellion, is on Jeff's list. I just haven't played it enough. We talked about why we love it. We did a whole entire episode on it. I just haven't played it enough to say confidently that it's a game that belongs in my top 10 of board games.
Right.
Networks is another one. I've played your one time on your copy at Gen Con. I loved that game. I want to play it more to make sure it's not going to get stale.
It's a funny game.
Caverna that Jeff talked about isn't on this list, but in the same area, for him, Caverna replaced Agricola. I've heard for a lot of people that Le Havre replaces Agricola.
Right.
And I own Le Havre, and I've been dying to get to play it. And I could see from everything I've read and heard about that game, I could see it replacing Agricola. I have also, the other 2 are 2 brand new games that I just got at Gen Con, Imperial Settlers and Mystic Vale. Imperial Settlers, I think with its expansions that are already out, once I add them and I play it more, I could see it jumping on there.
Okay.
Mystic Vale is entirely dependent on how good the expansions that they have not put out yet are.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a fine base game, but I don't see...
But not a top 10 base game.
Yeah, and there isn't a lot of replay. I mean, like, so I will say, like, unlike Dominion or some of those other ones where... Like you can put different combinations, whereas with that one, it's just pretty much you put them all in a pile, and you're going to see most of them.
Yeah,
sure you can.
Every time I've played the number one, like the base one has ran out, so you see all of those at some point in the game.
And both times I played it, number 2 ran out as well. So
yeah. I did have crossed out here Blood Rage. So the fact I'm glad you brought that one up because it is another one I think it's one I actually regret not kickstarting.
Yeah.
Because of everything extra you get when you kickstart it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to keep me from ever buying it. But it could, in an alternate universe, it could easily be on my top 10 list.
Yeah, I can see that.
So,
yeah.
So there we go. Those are our top 10s.
I've got a couple.
You got a couple more you want to throw on there? All right, Jeff, go nuts, man.
Scythe, which I have
not yet played.
Yet to play.
It is a fun game.
It's been on everyone. That thing is rocketing to the top of Board Game Geek.
Yeah.
I can almost guarantee I'm going to love that game. I kickstarted it on its maximum backer level on the sole purpose, on the sole opinion of I have loved that artist for years. And I was like, oh, there's going to be a game based around this? Done. Artist Connoisseur Edition.
Nice.
I have an art book. It's super nice.
I'm sure it is.
The others, Seven Sins, that one looks really awesome.
Yeah, I think I might actually be able to bring it to game night because it's supposed to play in 90 minutes to 2 hours, which seems pretty... short is a lot shorter than I was expecting, and there are games that I've played at game nights that have been that long. So,
oh yeah, definitely.
Through the Ages, I've owned that game forever, and it's been top 2 before.
Do you have the?
I have the
old one. Okay,
I have the previous edition.
So the old one I think is 8 or something like that, whereas a new story is now number 2.
Yeah.
I love that there are 2 copies and they're both in the top 10.
It's supposed to be a fantastic game. It's another one I would love to get to play, kind of like La Havre.
Yeah.
And Caverna.
It seems like we all have a bunch of games that we all own that we want to play, and yet for some reason we haven't been playing them.
We just got to make some time.
And
not play other games that
not play other games.
And fingers crossed, hopefully Seafall will be on all of our lists.
Yes, hopefully.
Yeah.
That one's probably the most anticipated.
Yeah, so that's actually supposed to be a heavy-ish Euro, which people weren't expecting. So that's why you'll hear some people go like middling-ish reviews because it was a lot heavier than they were expecting it to be.
That just gets me more excited.
Right?
I like a big heavy Euro.
I do too. I just like a big heavy game.
Yeah.
Because Pandemic, I mean, it's Pandemic.
Yes.
It's not Twilight Imperium.
Exactly. And the Risk Legacy was the same thing too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right on.
Cool.
Any final thoughts from anybody on lists?
All your lists were worse than mine.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I
mine
share
is the
that.
best.
I share that opinion only from my perspective.
Yeah.
You guys' list sucks. Mine's great.
I don't even acknowledge your 2's list. I can't even say they're gonna. No, I will agree with you that I really want to play. I've played the Networks twice so far, I think, and I love them both times. Maybe I haven't played it the third time. I don't know, but I definitely want to play that game more. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
And I want to play the others too. So
yeah. So there we are.
And
no. And all these.
I think the message is we like playing games and want to play more of them.
We do.
Yes. So go ahead and jump on over to our webpage after you listen to this episode, milehighgameguys.com. It will have the show notes, which will include our lists actually in order and set out there so that you're not trying to remember back to what was what and where was where. Tweet us at MHGameGuys on Twitter. Let us know what you think of our list. Feel free to send us your top 10 games. If there's a game that you think that we'd left off and didn't discuss at all that deserves a spot, tell us about it. We're always eager to try new games, especially ones that people are raving about.
Yeah.
We're all about that hotness. You can also send us emails if you don't want it to be public. We are available through email at emails@milehighgameguys.com.
Emails
at milehighgameguys.com. You can look for Instagram pictures of all these games as we play them at milehighgameguys.
Yep.
All of this social media and contact information is also available on our website. Everything you could need is on our website, milehighgameguys.com.
Also Facebook.
Yes.
Also on Facebook.
Mile High Game Guys.
Which that is also linked on our webpage, milehighgameguys.com.
Some people don't use web browsers. They only use Facebook.
But no, thank you for listening. I know this episode has been a little bit long, but we really wanted to be able to cover some of our favorite games for
definitely.
you, the listeners, to ponder and enjoy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we will be back next week
with
something.
more
With something.
with another podcast.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Another
fingers
podcast.
crossed. We will be back next week with nothing.
It will be
Goodbye, everyone.
Yeah, I think we've talked about everything we need to, right?
Yeah,
Podcast canceled.
Yeah,
But I'm having so much fun.
yeah. I guess
Yeah.
we'll be back.
So stay tuned next week for episode 11 of the Mile High Game Guys. We also have a spoilers review of Pandemic Legacy, the first 6 months.
Yep.
Comparing and contrasting Zach and I's game versus Jeff and his cohort's game.
Indeed.
And so stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Be sure to like, comment, subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever
Reviews
your
and all that stuff.
favorite board game thing is. We definitely love reviews. Jeff is dying for emails.
Oh yes.
So send us all that stuff.
Yeah.
We would love to hear from you guys. We know we have some listeners,
We do.
and we would like to hear from the
Dozens.
dozens. So,
Dozens.
all right. Well, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
I've been Adrian,
I'm still Zach.
I am Jeff.
and we've been the Mile High Game Guys. We'll talk to you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.